We have to get this right. That means the process has to be fair, accessible, and of course has to be accountable. The pandemic has presented us with an opportunity to improve our community in areas that have previously been underfunded. As Public Safety Chair, I've been tasked with guiding our committee with allocating the largest bucket of funding regarding mental health. It's important to focus on improving and growing our mental health infrastructure. As mentioned, CHECK will guide arts, seniors, and nonprofit social services, and economic and workforce development will guide small business, youth, and digital inclusion literacy. These are well divided up between the three committees, but it is important that the chairs of these three committees take note today, especially on our colleagues' thoughts about each bucket and how we're using these funds. I think working with the county is essential in magnifying the impact of the programming we're able to fund with ARPA, so I'm hoping that we're able to accomplish that. Moving back to public safety, mental health is mentioned 36 times in the ARPA federal guidelines and allows for funds to be used in areas such as foster youth, including organizations like CASA, social isolation, and investment in neighborhood features like healthy food stores and infrastructure. We've been working on improving responses to mental health calls, but we need to further invest in prevention or pre-crisis. Investing in our neighborhoods to become resilient and removing any stigma related to mental health is as vital as improving our F streets. A holistic look at our community also means looking at investing and improving access to mental health care for not only our community, but our first responders within that community, and continued investment in programs that build trust between community members. I have a question or two, I guess maybe for Maria. When can we receive a presentation at Public Safety focusing on the actual ARPA guidelines so that all the committees will know what our parameters are?
Sure, we can do that at the next Public Safety Committee meeting in April, Councilwoman.
Okay.
And let me just add that's something that we'll do at the other committees as well, so that everybody's prepared and ready for those conversations.
The general criteria in which the committees determine funding also need to be in line with each other, so I'm glad to hear every committee will get that. And I propose that the chairs of each committee meet to standardize that criteria for award funding so that even across committees it will be as equal as possible. And using both metrics and various types of performance metrics to apply these funds, and as well as measuring how they're going to be used and then the impact of the ARPA dollars they awarded. In addition to federal guidelines being presented, I also want to see a robust plan on how organizations will hear about the funding and awards process. I think there's been some disconnect. There's some organizations that didn't make the list. There's some organizations that maybe still want to put in, for it that haven't yet. So I'd like to hear a little more about that plan. But today we need to discuss and hear ideas on how we're distributing the amounts of funds based on the amount of funding available. Is it going to be like a one-time grant creating programs, or is it going to be turned into city initiatives, or is that something that the committees will determine? I'm going to let them talk it out. Sorry. I was just asking, is it going to be, are we looking at creating mostly one-time allocations, or they're more kind of investing in a city program, or is that up to the committees?
It's up to the committee.
Okay.
They should be one-time in nature. I mean, we're talking about a 4-year framework, so
okay.
Utilizing the dollars, if the committee chooses as they go through that process to spend that money over 4 years, I'm looking at Councilman Perry because it's something that he and I have talked about quite often. We want to make sure that we're not creating undue pressure on our own operating budget. But the other thing I want to clarify, Councilwoman, is that the responses or offers or proposals that we've received, that we sent an updated copy to the council earlier this week, we haven't asked for any proposals, so nobody that may be listening, don't think, oh no, I missed the window. Okay. None of that's happened yet. That needs to go through the committee process.
Okay, great. Okay. So for my colleagues on CHECK and economic workforce development, I'd like to see immediate outreach to all nonprofits that have applied for delegate agency funding in the past, and also suggest that each committee have a scoring mechanism put in place. My concern with delegate agencies, or even proposed delegate agencies, is that we know how well they're working, their own metrics, and so that when we provide them with funding, we'll know that we'll really be able to make an impact on the issue at hand. Data has shown us that an emphasis on our housing programs, including occupied rehab programs, can greatly transform neighborhoods and improve the quality of life for all our seniors. The pandemic has also shown us how deep the digital divide is. The fact of the matter is that we cannot allow parts of our city to lack access to the internet or digital devices. We have to work to eliminate that gap, or we will not overcome the findings within the poverty report. I support SA Digital Connect's proposal to provide internet and devices to over 25,000 homes. The ARPA town halls also showed that San Antonians are interested in helping our youth. The recent study on homelessness identified foster youth children as more likely to become homeless. I would like to see funding go towards organizations like CASA that help foster care children navigate the court system, and SARA that works towards getting our youth that are unhoused into housing. Projects like the Spanish Trails Park Healthy Living Program and SAGE programs are vital to our youth. Helping our special needs youth is, again, vital, so I support funding the Autism Community Network. This organization handles 81% of the autism diagnoses for the San Antonio area and currently has an 18-month wait list. I'm sure any parent will agree, no one wants to wait that long to know if your child is going to have special needs. You want to get them into services, so I'm sure that's a difficult process already, and we'd like to make that a little easier for them. An early diagnosis for those with autism can make a world of difference for the child and their parents. Of course, we cannot forget our small businesses. These businesses provide jobs and opportunity to San Antonians and are the lifeblood of our economy. I support the Hispanic Chamber's request for small business loans. Finally, I want to point out that food security mitigation strategies, including working with our food bank, should be a part of community recovery efforts, especially as San Antonians recover from the pandemic. After all, this is about recovery and resilience. Thank you, Mayor.